Welcome to Mary Alice.
What did you do?
We are a Desperate Housewives recap podcast with me, Erin McGee.
And me, Jakub Tanzi. Two best friends breaking down each episode until we answer the ultimate question, Mary Alice, what did you do?
Unless, of course, we have finished season 1, in which case, insert new mystery here.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack on Wisteria Lane.
Content warnings can be found in the episode description.
So get comfortable and let's get into this week's episode. Hello.
Hello.
You sound very cheerful. Why?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a sad occasion.
We're coming to you live from a funeral.
Not to spoil where this episode is heading in any way.
We are mourning one of our most beloved characters. Who? You'll have to listen to find out.
Oh.
How have you been?
Well, now I'm scared to say that I've been really good. I mean, through my tears, I have been okay. How have you been? You've just been away on holiday.
I have. I just flew back from Poland last night, and I was actually writing up my notes for this episode on the plane. And one of the flight attendants came over and tapped me on the shoulder, and I was like, I know, we're landing. I have to put my iPad and stuff away. And he was like, oh my God, great choice of show. What season are you on?
No.
Yeah, I was like, oh girl, I've seen every episode. Anyway, long story short, I think one of the KLM flight attendants might be listening to us now. So if you're listening, KLM flight attendant, I see you. Thank you for a lovely flight, and we appreciate you.
Why did I think you were going to lie and pretend that he tapped you on the shoulder and went, are you the co-host of... And I'm in my head going, don't lie right now.
No, I wouldn't quite stoop to that level.
I am still house hunting, and that is still my entire personality, pretty much. I don't think I've mentioned this on the pod yet, but the main thing that is pushing me forward in the house hunt is that I will be getting a dog as soon as I do. And a dog is all I have ever wanted since I was a baby, since I can remember. I used to do PowerPoint presentations and deliver them to my mother, and they were about an hour long, and my mum would sit through the whole thing and go, that was a very good presentation, but the answer is still no.
Bongo will begin this episode.
Well, I was looking it up, and I think this might be Bongo's last episode.
Oh my God, double funeral.
Double funeral.
Oh, that's actually quite upsetting because there's no send-off for him.
Bob Fisk has him in a basement taxidermied as we speak.
Potential new big bad.
Oh, we'll get there.
We'll get there.
So, this entire week, because you have been away, I have been sitting and I watched the episode really early doors, didn't realize it was this one, and had to stop myself from texting you about it.
It's really hard not to text you when I want to save something for the pod.
Yes.
Let's get into it because I simply cannot wait.
This is season 1, episode 8, Guilty.
We get our usual Mary Alice voiceover talking about the Bible, sinners, and how Bree Vandekamp specifically had always felt guilty. We get a small montage of different points in Bree's life and showing different times that she felt guilty over the years. And it ends on Bree reading the Bible as the family discusses what to do about Andrew, who hit Mama Solis in the previous episode while drunk driving. The family are squabbling until Bree tells everyone what they will do. They'll leave the car in a bad part of town, the keys inside, the door unlocked. If the police don't find it, they'll get the insurance. If they do, it won't be in their possession. She's really thought this through. She is very commanding in this moment.
Yes.
But also, no one else seems to want to take responsibility or charge of this situation, it seems to me. And then once that's settled, she announces that there will be pancakes for breakfast, which is funny and it is very Bree. But in this moment, not even she can say it in her cheerful tone when she's how she often sort of changes the genre. We've said a couple times. Mm-hmm. It's the words are of a different genre, but the tone, it maintains its very kind of solemn, really stressed out kind of vibe.
And to your point, I think that this is the first episode in the Vandekamp dining room, which is the family room, if you will, where it's not a play. So there's no weird lighting anymore. It's all very naturalistic, and it does feel like something has shattered and we're in the real world now.
That's such a good point.
And I love that she comes in and basically she's sitting, I think, by the window, kind of looking wistfully while they're having this conversation. And once she's come up with a plan, she enters and they are all looking at her for the first time in awe. Rex looks in awe of her. Andrew and Danielle look like they respect her. Another thing I really liked, and it's such a small thing, is how much Andrew and Danielle still feel very much like siblings. So even though Danielle's trying to support him, she says at one point, then it's murder. And he goes, shut up. And she goes, you shut up. And it just reminds us that Andrew's 16 years old and Danielle is 15.
Yeah, babies.
Babies. She also says, Bree at one point, our son is about to spend most of his jail...
Oops.
Bree says at one point, our son is about to spend most of his life in jail. I won't allow that. And then immediately, she puts a cup on a coaster, which I thought was significant. She reaches over and there's a cup on the table and she takes it and puts it on a coaster. And we know that Bree's go-to coping mechanism is to fix things, to turn her feelings off.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's such a cool observation. What I find interesting is that in I can't remember if it was just the last episode or the episode before, when Andrew was like bullying someone at school and Bree was so on board for like, no, he needs to be punished. We need to like do whatever's appropriate. If he gets expelled, fine,
Yes.
But, you know, at the end of the day, it's still her child and she will not have him going to jail.
I think she definitely battles with consequence this episode. And this is a great introduction of that. And I also think it's significant that the montage you were speaking about earlier of all the things she feels guilty for, which, by the way, very relatable to me. I, too, have been guilty since birth. Are things like not getting straight A's, her boyfriend getting to second base and taking 3 weeks to write her thank you cards. She holds herself at such a high standard. In some ways, I'm more forgiving of her for holding other people to that standard.
What's that phrase? Treat others how you want to be treated.
Which is from the Bible, Jakub. Did you know that?
I feel like I must know that.
For people who don't know Jakub and I personally, are there any of you? We'll find out. To the KLM flight attendant.
Hi, bestie.
Jakub and I spent 13 years in Catholic school. So a lot of this religious imagery and the ideas around guilt and Catholicism in this episode, I felt very conflicted about all of them.
Yeah, I feel like you're waiting for me to add to that, and I'm just like, yeah.
Same,
bestie.
Our next scene is cleanup duty. Which for me as well, so Jakub and I, when we are making these episodes, we kind of do a summary of the scenes and group them all together. If I had to give this scene to somebody, it would probably be Bree.
Yeah, I agree. For a very specific reason for me, I'm curious to hear as to why you've given it to Bree, but we'll see.
To me, this scene is Bree's punishment for Andrew's crime, if you will.
Oh, I love that.
So the ladies are cleaning up the crime scene. So Lynette brought the broom, Susan brought the trash bags, Bree brought the industrial strength solvent. This is incredibly triggering for Bree. Because as previously has been established, she has already done this after the scene of a car crash before when her mother was killed by car accident. Perhaps her most traumatic memory that she has only ever shared with Zach Young. And now she has to do it again. What makes this so much worse is while the women are cleaning up the crime scene, they're talking about how it's not looking good for Juanita. There's a 50-50 chance of her waking up. And Lynette is angry and Susan is angry. And Bree is the person who has to deal with it. It's a really interesting scene. A red car zooms by and Lynette chucks, I think, a sponge at it. Full impact. It's very impressive. She should be a baseball player. And Bree is having to hear the other woman hoping that Andrew is punished for this, knowing she is the reason that he isn't going to be.
Yeah, and Lynette literally says she hopes whoever hit Juanita gets life in prison. And Bree looks very shocked and almost scared, I guess, because I guess it kind of hits her that is a possibility if she doesn't cover up Andrew's crime.
This is a really interesting choice of someone who holds himself to such a high standard, having that standard completely questioned. It's a full... this incident makes her question everything she's ever believed in. I really think so, especially it being a car accident.
Yeah, and I think that really is shown because there are several moments throughout the episode when we see Bree flicking through and sort of consulting the Bible. And I just think it's kind of common when people can't come up with answers to their problems to turn to things like religion.
Yes, and Bree is a very protective person as well, and we see that throughout the series. I also had a bit of an observation about how she's speaking to the women. The women, while they're cleaning the crime scene with her, Bree doesn't share that she has done this before. Bree doesn't share this memory of her mother. And I just think it's very telling. I've mentioned this a few times, my little side conspiracy, that Bree has no idea that these women are her best friends yet.
Mm.
And I don't think she really gets a proper friendship with them until much later.
Well, she comes much more into her own later, and I think that helps develop those relationships.
Yes, I mean, I think I said this 2 episodes ago. You don't connect with perfect people over doing perfect things. You connect with people because of their mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So her friendships with these women aren't going to be authentic, and her relationships with people aren't going to be authentic until she learns to open up, which I do think we see happening piece by piece.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
But you said Bree is looking guilty,
Yes.
but she's also looking fabulous. Because her little outfit, there's something about Bree in a hat. It's incredible every time. She looks adorable.
Is she wearing a hat when she's at the dining table? Is that the scene we're talking about?
No. When she's cleaning up the lane, she's wearing
yeah.
she's wearing a little hat, and it's just stunning. It's genuinely made me think that I need to start wearing hats, but I know that I can't because I have an odd-shaped skull.
Maybe you just need an odd-shaped hat.
No.
Now we're talking.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Bree has also an incredible piece of headwear for the next scene too.
Yes.
Late at night, Bree and Rex are in the previously mentioned bad part of town to get rid of the car that Andrew hit Mama Solis with. Bree drops it off somewhere and joins Rex in their own car. And Bree could not have dressed better or more suspiciously in this moment. She's wearing like a green trench coat, these like leather gloves, and a silk, I think it's like a powder pink headscarf with some yellow details on it. She just looks unbelievable. She does not belong in the bad part of town in this outfit. She's clearly up to no good.
She belongs in a French noir film. And I have noted, first of all, that this is obviously my outfit of the week.
Obviously.
But also, Marsha Cross nails every aesthetic that they throw at her.
In your opinion?
No, there is nothing opinion about it.
Well, not only does this scene have the outfit of the week, but it also has my quote of the week.
I know exactly what it's going to be.
Crack me up so much. So Rex asks Bree how she can be so sure that someone will steal the car. And Bree responds by saying, oh my God, I need a second.
I'm fanning myself in the background.
She says, because I have faith in the poor. Oh my God, I love her.
That's our girl right there.
I think I know what your quote of the week will be. Is it different?
Yes.
Okay, I'm very curious to see if it's what I think.
I can't wait for you to make extreme eye contact with me when the scene comes up just to try and see. Our next scene of Rex and Bree in the car, Rex is saying that Bree has been quiet. And this scene is really interesting for me because this is the most honest it feels like they have been together when they're reminiscing. Bree says, we could have been better parents. Rex says, we weren't that bad. And they vaguely talk about punishing Andrew. before they eventually spot a suspicious man getting into Andrew's car and driving away with it. What I liked about this scene is, well, first, for a starter, they could have been better parents. Everybody could be better parents. I think that's fine to say. But they also are speaking as if they are no longer dealing with children. And they are. The parenting work is still to be done. But I wonder if there is a moment of the innocence of their childhood is now gone.
I just think that it's kind of like carrying on from the last episode's ending where the kids and this situation is really what's brought the family together, and you would never know in this scene that they're having marital problems.
Yes. They have a familiarity with each other and a comfort in their dynamic that they don't have in any other scene. And I do think it's partly because they have a kind of common purpose and they are equals in this moment. And usually the power dynamics are going crazy between Rex and Bree, and neither of them is happy with the outcome. But here, they feel like friends, colleagues, working together. It's really nice.
It is. So at home, Bree tries to talk to Andrew because she made it clear when talking to Rex that they need to impress the seriousness of what Andrew's done onto him, suggesting that Andrew opens up to potentially a therapist.
Do we think that she is trying to get Andrew to go to Goldfine so she can steal his tape and find exactly what Andrew is saying about her?
I wouldn't put it past Bree, but I must say Bree really feels very genuine in this moment. She's kind of like made the assumption that Andrew is feeling some kind of guilt or stress or shame over what he did. But Andrew is nothing of the sort.
No.
He's cool, as he puts it.
Yes.
And Bree really tries to clock Andrew as the monster of the week here.
Yes.
She literally calls him a monster at some point, which honestly is fair because his biggest concern is now that he has to ride a bike to school.
Yes.
Which is kind of wild. But she then, in my opinion, takes a step too far a little bit by saying that she needs to make sure he has a soul, wondering why she shouldn't just call the police. It's clear in this moment that this is all genuine concern and it's coming from a good place, but damn, that's like really harsh.
Yes, it's a brutal thing to say. And I think Bree in this moment cannot fathom that someone who feels the amount of guilt that she does about such small things is... There's that classic thing of you expect everyone to feel the same way you do. And it is quite shocking when someone doesn't, especially someone that you think you know or you think you know how somebody is going to react. And I think she somewhat felt that if Andrew felt guilty, that justified her protecting him. But now there is no justification for that.
Yeah, and after she makes the comment about why shouldn't she just call the police, Andrew plays Uno reverse, saying that that would make her the monster of the week.
I mean, he doesn't say monster of the week.
But he does say monster. I think, though, from Andrew's perspective, you know, he is a child, and this is also recent. He could still be in shock.
Yes. And I think there's a bit of denial from him as well.
Oh, for sure.
We don't know at this point if Juanita is going to wake up. We don't know if she is going to remember. And he does feel very realistic to me as a kind of troubled teen, if you will.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I ask you if you think either of them are the monster of the week?
No, these are not my monster of the week because these are two very real people struggling with this insane situation in realistic ways, I think. Next, we have the Gabby scenes.
The scene that I titled, Gabby is unbothered.
Truer words have never been said.
She is deeply unlikable here. So she and Carlos are by Mama Solis's bedside. Gabby is looking at her nails. Her body language is off. It is very clear that she is not concerned. Carlos is clearly devastated, saying that he needs to be there for his mum if she wakes up. And Gabby feels heartless here. There is a complete lack of empathy. She is saying all the right things in theory, but there is no emotion behind it. Enter John the child gardener. He comes in, clearly feeling guilty. It's the theme of the episode. He even hugs Carlos and hands over some flowers. Carlos leaves to go to the hospital chapel to pray for Mama, and Gabby says she will stay behind to watch her. And I think she thinks she's about to have a chat with John, but John asks to go with Carlos and pray with him. And it looks like he's taken 3 flowers out of the garden and kind of sellotaped them together. It's very sweet and very childlike. And when you think that there is some sort of redemptive nature to her, perhaps it is thwarted when the nurse comes in and offers Gabby to give the sponge bath for Mama, and she passes. Now, I'm not mad at that as a gesture, mainly because in America, would they not charge her for it anyway? And she does hate the woman, and the woman hates her. However, it doesn't feel like a woman saying, that wouldn't be appropriate for me to do. It feels like, I have no respect for this woman.
I think what becomes clear as the Gabby scenes go on is that Gabby is truly only looking out for number one. Yes,
Gabby, I think's fatal flaw is that she is selfish. And I do think on the journey of this show, that's her big battle, is learning how to put other people first. And it's a hard lesson. And I would say it's probably also one that Carlos learns too. But we'll get there.
We'll get there. So another day, the Van de Kamps are visiting Gabby and Carlos at home to show some support, see how they're doing, but I also suppose mostly to see if the police have any leads.
Bree brings over ladyfingers, which just reminds me of the shepherd's pie in Friends. A layer of ladyfingers. It's all I can think about when I hear ladyfingers. Also, follow up, what are ladyfingers?
Is it an American thing? Because I have no clue. Do you know, I was picturing like chocolate fingers, I guess, but maybe more biscuity.
Another side thing that I don't think was on purpose. But we are introduced to a character in this episode vaguely. We hear about her for the first time later on. She is another character's sister. And for her introduction to be in an episode that speaks about ladyfingers sincerely made me laugh.
Oh my God, anyone who is not connecting the dots there that's seen the show before has no idea what's going on.
I can't wait until people go, oh!
Observation of the week. Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
So Carlos in this scene has some sort of, I guess, grief-fueled revelation about children being the future in this moment, and announces, much to Gabby's surprise, that they'll be starting a family soon.
Oh, I hated it.
Oh, yeah. Now, this leads to an uncomfortable argument with Carly.
And my quote of the week.
Yes. Yes.
Is it what you thought it would be?
It is what I thought it was. But do you know what's quite... Okay, we'll get there. Gabby reminds him that he promised no kids when they got married, and Carlos is uncomfortable with how shallow their lives are. He hits back with something like, deals are meant to be renegotiated, and then...
Well, we're not negotiating my uterus. I think this scene radicalized me as a kid. I think it made me the woman that I am today. This really is the episode of, we've mentioned this before. And actually, I'm going to talk about that right now. I think this is where the chickens all really come to roost this episode.
Well, it makes sense when the theme is guilt, because it's almost like people are feeling the consequences of everything we've talked about in the previous episodes.
Yes, we get so much payoff here. And the payoff here comes from Gabby saying that her life is fulfilled and she doesn't need to have children to give her life fulfillment. And I want to be very clear that I simultaneously think Gabby is a selfish person, and also think that it is not selfish of her to not want to have children.
Yes.
Also, the announcing this in front of your friends and not speaking to your wife in advance, in my opinion, is unforgivable.
I think that a lot of his decision there comes from a place of grief. And I think it is somewhat forgivable purely because if in a later time, once he's not grieving, he, like apologized and was like, I wasn't in a good place or whatever, then I think that'd be fine. I don't think he does do that. And in fact, I'm pretty sure it gets worse. But in this moment...
Hey kids, it gets worse.
But in this moment, we don't know that, in theory.
I think if he'd said, we're thinking about potentially starting a family one day, very different. He doesn't ask her, he tells her.
Yeah, it's not great either.
It's
not
really not great. And yes, before we got married, we made a deal. No kids. And we know that Carlos's job is negotiating deals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this again because I want to get this right, because I don't want people at home to be mad at me. I think there are certain people who believe that once they marry someone, they can change their minds on the child issue. And that is doing that relationship and their partner a complete disservice.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to trap them.
Yes, it's baby trapping.
Yeah, literally. I
believe that the new generation, instead of being baby trapped, are being pet trapped. I think, none of us can really afford to have kids. So the new thing is that people are getting a dog, and then people weirdly share custody of the dog after they broke up. And it's an absolute chaotic nightmare. It's not for me. And other news, I'm getting a dog.
And was this pre-negotiated, pre-engagement? Or are you trapping this man?
We've been together a decade. I'm not rushing into this.
Oh my goodness.
Alrighty. I used your catchphrase there. I like it when in between scenes, Jakub goes, alrighty.
It is. And it probably gets cut every time, so no one else knows it's my catchphrase. And at the end of the scene, as the Van de Kamps are leaving, Bree basically looks horrified at how happy Andrew seems to be off the hook for the hit and run, because there's no suspicion towards them, which is clear from the scene.
Yes. Then we have the scene in my notes, which is Gabby talks to John, the child gardener, but it's actually a door.
It's a door.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, it is in fact a door.
So Gabby has shown up at John's ? And tries to be subtle by talking to the door while John is raking the leaves on the lawn. John says he's sticking with Danielle from now on and is rightly showing guilt for what has happened. Gabby isn't. And John reveals he went to confession and spoke to a priest about everything. Now, Gabby, as we've pre-established, is speaking to a door during this scene. And she cannot go in because Gabby Solis is my monster of the week.
Ooh, I didn't see that coming. Ooh.
I think this is a really bad episode for Gabby.
It is. But now I'm not going to defend Gabby here. But
But please hold while I defend her.
Well, I mean, we're going to get into it in the next and final scene of the Gabby arc, but I just think we get a bit more of an insight into Gabby. You know what? We'll get into the next scene.
Yeah.
I
think I know what you're saying, though. I mean, you can understand behavior without excusing it. You and I have spoken about this before in the real world. So it's, which this is.
Yeah.
Do you know what we haven't spoken about yet? Wisteria Lane. Desperate Housewives is getting a reboot, and we haven't even spoken about it.
I was going to talk about it in the intro, but then I got sidelined by my KLM flight attendant. So, I mean, this episode's going to come out probably like a month or so after the news dropped, but there's going to be a reboot, sequel, offshoot, something like that to Desperate Housewives.
Did we do this?
I think we manifested this because less than a week after we started publishing this podcast, the news dropped.
And it's Kerry Washington.
Crazy.
Absolutely bananas.
Crazy.
So I think that we should keep up with the updates that come out about this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, our next scene, Gabby has invited the priest to Juanita's bedside, and she is clearly trying to get information out of him about what John the child gardener has confessed to him. Well, Gabby, if it isn't the consequences of your own actions.
I just find it so funny that she's invited him and she's like, oh, thank you for coming. Da, da, da. And then after a literal nanosecond of praying, she's like, well, Father, since you're here.
Yes. she's funny.
This priest, his name is Father Crowley, and he is a semi-recurring character, as is another priest as well, who we've not met yet, throughout the course of the show. And I feel so bad for these priests because they just spend all their time on the lane just listening to the terrible things these women are doing over the course of the show.
But if you were in a position like that, and I'm not trying to be blasphemous here, but wouldn't you love the gossip? Imagine day to day your confessions, and it's just like, oh, I didn't do this random, I didn't take out the bins for my wife, and then someone comes in and it goes, I'm having an affair, and this is happening, and Mama Celeste has been hit by a car, and imagine you'd be on the edge of your pew.
Okay, well, he's having a lovely work day then.
This is such a funny scene, but what I find so interesting about it is Gabby says confessions aren't really my thing. And it seems like a very flippant moment here, but spoiler-ish, we do grow to understand later on why Gabby does not trust members of the clergy.
After Father Crowley assures Gabby that any secrets given in confession are safe, he then tries to encourage Gabby to confess, and she's just so resistant.
I love this moment. She's haggling. She's trying to haggle with the priest about her heavenly status. She's like, okay, but if I repent on my deathbed when I'm 70, then we're good for just now, right?
Yeah.
And he's going, well, technically.
She's like really hustling here, looking for a loophole to the whole going to hell thing. She doesn't come clean. The priest already knows what's been going on, but she makes it clear, like, I know you know, kind of thing. So they're talking more openly about everything. And the priest is very clear about, like, if you don't confess after committing a mortal sin, you will go to hell. So it is quite intense, despite the comedic elements of this scene. Right as she's leaving, Father Crowley reads Gabby to filth because he asks her if she wants to be a good person. And she says what she wants is to be happy, which we've seen time and time again with the things she says to John about why she's having the affair and all these things. And Father Crowley comes back with, that's the answer of a selfish child. So I'm not excusing or justifying anything Gabby's done, but maybe that's why partly Gabby was drawn to a child.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Is that something I should cut?
I think that she is drawn to John because of a lack of maturity. I think you're right with that. I also think that his lack of power, when she feels so powerless, is attractive to her. She's so powerless in her marriage with the fact that her only real currency that she perceives is her body. And again, at this point, Carlos is the person making choices for her body, arguably. She doesn't have financial resources. The only person she can feel more powerful than really is a child. And that is dark.
Yeah. And this scene, although there were a few comedic elements, it does end on a sort of darker tone. And as Gabby's leaving after the priest says that, she says, I know. And she says it in this really solemn sort of tone, because clearly, despite how much she pretends she doesn't, she does clearly feel guilty somewhat. And I think this is the first time that we've really seen so much awareness from Gabby at how wrong the things she's doing are. Because we've talked about before how, she's acknowledged John's a child and kind of like played it for laughs or whatever.
Yes.
But this is the first time where it's like, oh, you know that this is horrible. And again, that doesn't make it forgivable, but it just helps to kind of understand the situation a bit better, which for me makes her more of a person and less of a monster of the week, if that makes sense.
I love this analysis, Jakub.
Thank you.
I also think that it's interesting to me, and I don't know the answer yet. I don't know if Gabby feels more guilty about having an affair with a child or having an affair.
Oh, well, that's actually one thing I was going to say, is that the priest doesn't seem at all concerned with the fact that it's a child.
Yes.
Because the mortal sin that he was referring to is having an affair and stepping outside of your marriage.
Yes.
He's like, oh, he's a child. That doesn't matter. It's like, what, where is the... Okay, anyway, that is just something I noticed.
No, you're right to point it out. Right to point it out.
So our next arc is not any of our main girlies. We have a collection of scenes with Paul and Edie. Martha Huber, our bestie girl, is packing a bag as she prepares to go visit her sister. Did someone say incoming icon?
Incoming icon alert. Oh, I can't wait until we get to meet her.
But with the fashion that she's wearing,
Yes, Jakub!
it looks like she's halfway packed for some budget rodeo in this vile denim shirt.
It's horrific, and I was so scared you were gonna like it.
I think this is the worst, most heinous fashion out we've had up until this point. Honestly, I think anything that happens to Martha Huber in this episode is deserved from this shirt.
Oh God. It's not just that it's a denim jacket. I love a denim jacket. I wear a denim jacket, I would say, every day. It's the weird patches on it, and there was something on the back, and I tried to pause and see what it was. I don't know.
We will post a picture of this on the Instagram. So go check it out and comment how much you hate it. We don't want any compliments. I'll delete those comments.
And you will be blocked.
Blacklisted from the pod.
It's hideous. It's very Martha.
Oh my God.
And I miss these gals. The gals are back in full force. And this scene, as much as it's the gals fighting, still feels very friendship.
Yeah, it's very cute in a way.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel the same way, because afterwards, when I was typing up my notes about it, it's one of those moments, almost like Downton Abbey or something Bridgerton, where they are using language and then a minute later you go, oh wait, that was a fight. Or you go, oh wait, that was them loving each other.
They're almost more like sisters. Like,
yes.
You mentioned the dynamic with like Andrew and Danielle earlier where they're bickering, and it's very that.
Yes, they're very, very sibling coded. And Martha feels like the older sister.
Oh,
Edie
yeah.
feels like the younger, rebellious sister.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
So Edie comes home and accuses Mrs. Huber of stealing $40 from her, which Martha denies and suggests one of the many men she brought home might have taken it.
Strange men that parade through it at all hours.
Now, Edie is staying with Martha, presumably free of charge, and so Edie is so wrong for that, just bringing guys home all the time, but also, I get it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you of all people. I think that what is interesting about you mentioning that dynamic is when it's first introduced that Edie is staying with Martha, Martha says it's what any good Christian would do. And again, this brings back the theme for me, which, how to say this? The hypocrisy of Catholicism that appears through Martha specifically. Her character is very much the hypocritical Catholic. And I'll come back to it later in the episode. But again, Edie's our girl. We say this about her all the time. She's very straightforward. You stole $40. I know you're having money problems. Let's talk it out, essentially.
Yeah. And the fight does get a little bit heated and comes to a head when Martha essentially tells Edie that she wants her gone by the time she gets back from her sisters. She mentions in passing during this fight that Edie is her best friend.
Yes, and I believe her.
I do. Oh, because you don't really see her with anyone else other than her thousands of colleagues across the town.
All the employee of the month posters in every establishment in Fairview. Do you think she also has jobs in the seedy part of town? Did we see a close-up of who stole Andrew's car? Was it Martha in a wig?
Oh my God. You know what? It is now. It is now. Fight me on it.
But also, it hurts because it feels genuine that Edie is her best friend, even more so when, as much as this is a fight, she says she's going to give Edie a couple of days to get herself together.
Yeah. And
Edie's counterpoint is, I am leaving right now.
Yeah. And then when Edie leaves, Martha Huber takes the $40 out of her bra and puts it away.
But I do believe that if Martha said, I'm having money problems to Edie, they would find a way to work it out. They would have a side hustle where the men that were coming over, maybe they'd rob them together. It would be cute. It would be sweet. And I think Edie isn't a snitch.
I want to see that episode.
Oh, another great line from that scene. I want my money, and I want those non-fat peach yogurts.
They didn't just walk out of the fridge.
Also, honorable mention, I'm going to have to burn every sheet you've touched.
Oh my God, yes. There were a lot of great quotes in this episode.
The next scene is a home video of Mary Alice on her last birthday while she was alive. Paul is talking about how beautiful she is and seems visibly upset. And he's having this conversation debriefing with who I've called Mr. Detective Hitman. So Paul seems to have paid the money to Mr. Detective Hitman to make Edie disappear. Because if you forgot last episode, he has established that Edie wrote the note. Paul is wondering why Edie did it, and if the Mr. Detective Hitman would ask, but he says that Paul shouldn't give in to his curiosity. And Paul looks very vulnerable here for one of the first occasions.
Yeah, he's like teared up in the eyes for the whole scene.
And it's the first time he says, my wife is dead because of Edie Britt. And I don't think he said anything out loud about the my wife is dead.
He's kind of creeping towards the acceptance stage of grieving.
Yes, but this really freaked me out. I don't know if you noticed this. He reaches out to touch the screen with the birthday video playing, but it does not feel tender. He basically goes to choke Mary Alice's neck.
Oh my God, I did not notice that, but I'm gonna go back and watch.
It genuinely gave me goosebumps over my entire body.
Oh my God. Okay, maybe he's got 1 foot in anger, 1 foot in acceptance.
But we know as well. So we have had our interview with Emily Truhas, who was talking about how lovely this man is. And I think this scene, I was more warm to Paul in general, and I was thinking about how nice the actor seems to be, and then he went for the choke, and I felt so conflicted. And also, in certain lights, when he's not being evil, he's a little bit handsome. It's very confusing.
Does he have nice arms?
All the better to choke you with, my dear. Oh no, you're gonna leave that in, aren't you?
I can take it out. But don't worry, I'm going to be very thirsty later, so it'll even out. And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Which is very funny because I have 3 beverages in front of me right now. I am the thirstiest girl. We've got, I think once we addressed on the pod that we were drinking tequila, and I think that's the only time we have ever drank while doing the pod.
Yeah, we did it that day.
So I just need to clarify, when I speak about beverages, it's water, it's tea, it's a not sponsored Diet Coke.
But it could be sponsored, Big Coke.
Stop saying big and then the company. You know why? Because it's so funny. If Big Water want to get involved.
Before the government nationalise it.
Okay, it just stopped being funny really quickly.
Okay, that's getting cut.
No!
Yeah.
Oh, this scene is crazy. This scene had me, I knew where it was going, and I was still tense.
It's a very intense scene. The hitman mentions to Paul in the previous scene that as far as Edie's aware, he's some like real estate developer person. And that's obviously what he talked about when he approached her at the bar. And so now Edie is meeting the hitman at some land for development, in quotation marks.
Yes.
And it's for a business meeting, but it's also clearly where he plans to kill her because it's the middle of nowhere. There's no one around. It's her girl, Edie. Like, we're scared.
But also what I really liked is she has a proposal for the real estate and she does seem genuinely quite good at her job. It was just a nice little thing.
Yeah. I mean, well, I suppose she's had several divorces, but I was going to say she affords like a very nice house and stuff. So I would assume that she does well at her job.
What house?
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So when she brings out a piece of paper that she's made some notes on for this meeting, the hitman comments, "Nice stationery."
Which I would do too.
Which I've noted that I can imagine you saying. But obviously within context here, it makes sense. But out of context, this man saying "nice stationery" is just so funny to me.
I knew that you would think that was a weird thing to say. And I also knew I would have to defend it by saying I would do the exact same thing. We know this man loves his stationery and he knows a lot about it.
Yeah.
I used to do tweets every year of who had the best diary planners.
And who does?
Well, at the moment, it's Papier, not sponsored, Big Papier. But I remember the year that I told Paper Chase that they needed to wise up. And the next year, they went into administration. But also, crucially, Paper Chase followed me on Twitter/X.
There we go. Erin McGeish is making it happen.
So I know what I'm talking about when I say
nice stationery.
Edie then goes, oh, it's stolen. Because Edie is nothing if not honest.
Exactly. The way this man's eyes grow 3 times in size with how wide they are. And Edie reveals to us that the paper actually belongs to our big bad, Martha Huber, truly the big bad of the season in so many ways.
The biggest reveal. It's so good. And I love that we love Edie's honesty, and it is that brutal honesty that saves her life.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Yes! It's such good writing.
It's phenomenal.
I don't remember where I was when this reveal happened. I don't remember what age I was when I realized that this was the case. But I know that I was shocked.
Yeah.
Which is weird because if you look back on the episodes, we do see Martha coming across as more and more dangerous.
Yeah.
But we have this picture in our head of the harmless, annoying neighbor. And that's the point of the show.
Yeah, but it's so funny when you look back on it because it feels so obvious.
Yes.
Because Martha has literally blackmailed Susan a couple episodes ago. And just like, when you start putting the pieces together, it's like, duh.
Yes, but also, a few episodes ago, post-pod, you and I were talking and you turned to me and went, oh my God, Martha wrote the note.
Yes. Oh, it's so funny the way as we're doing this podcast now, I'll just be like in the shower and I'll suddenly remember some big twist from the show.
Oh, stationery saves lives.
Oh my God, yeah. And that is the episode title, I think.
This next scene I have written, who's been messing up everything? It's been Martha all along. That's genuinely how I felt. It was such a good, she's the big bad. We said she was the villain in Julie the Vampire Slayer, and this is why.
When we started with that Julie the Vampire Slayer joke, were you aware of where that was going with Martha in this?
Yes, but you were.
I truly did not. It was just a whole side joke for me.
I remember you saying she is the big bad and me going, well, yeah.
And me being like, la, 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 la.
So, Mr. Detective Hitman reveals that it has been Martha all along and says he doesn't do refunds, but he will go see Martha instead. He's exchanging this murder for store credit. And it made me laugh so much. He's like,
there's so many potential good episode titles here.
You're welcome. Mr. Detective Hitman is saying, I will go see Martha. And Paul, hilariously, has had a change of heart. He says, no, finally saying, this isn't what Mary Alice would have wanted. And instead, she would have wanted answers. Thank goodness, because we as viewers want them to.
Yeah, and he also says how guilty he's be feeling over the whole thing, continuing on with the theme of the episode.
And the next time we see Paul and Martha, Paul is insisting on helping Martha inside with the groceries.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I think that Martha is talking about having ants at some point, and Paul talks about having to do pest control in his own home with Mary Alice, and tells a story about how gentle she is and how she wasn't willing to kill a bug because she literally couldn't kill a fly. And Martha has sensed that a tone has shifted, and she says goodnight to Paul and asserts the boundaries, but Paul just full on whaps the note on the table. And instead of, what is this? Everything is confirmed as she says, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm. The mask comes off, honey.
And Paul says, I want to know why. And what happens next? We'll get there because we're about to talk about Lynette.
We'll get there. Ah! Lynette is trying acupuncture to help relax since she's clearly having withdrawals from her kid's ADHD medication. but she's trying this with her kids absolutely running amok, which is truly not the move, and that is on her.
The baby's in the room with her.
It's crazy. She's in like this doctory sort of room or whatever, like clinic spa she's at, whatever. And I mean, it's clearly not working.
No.
And so Lynette levels with the lady she's gone to and comes clean about the whole ADHD med situation.
Which I loved.
She's like, look, this is what I'm doing. I know I'm bad. I don't care. I'm going to stop soon. Can you just help me? I just need to bloody sleep. And she asked the practitioner, who is unlicensed to prescribe anything, for something to help her sleep until she's done with the withdrawals. And so the lady offers Lynette a strong tea and cautions her to use it judiciously, a warning which Lynette's attitude clearly does not plan to adhere to.
I think the woman yields because at one point Parker comes in dragging in an entire houseplant.
Yeah, this lady just wants Lynette gone.
Yeah. And also, crucially, Parker's like the good kid.
Yeah.
Whenever Parker does something wrong, I go, you're not one of the twins. You're supposed to be the well-behaved one.
Well, I'd say he's like the best of a misbehaving hand.
Where were you in the hierarchy as a kid? Because you're one of three.
I was the golden child in terms of like, I was very teacher's pet energy.
Yes.
The most rebellious thing I ever did was spend my own money on something that my mum didn't want me to have. It was a PlayStation 3.
Classic elder child.
Yeah. How about you?
I wanted attention for positive things. So I was a goody two-shoes. I was a teacher's pet. Even though I was doing things that I guess at some points might have seemed a bit rebellious, my mum knew where I was. My mum knew what I was doing.
She was encouraging it.
Yeah, but my mum used to say, if you want alcohol, let me know and I will give you alcohol. But if I ever catch you drinking cider in a field, I will cut your fingers off.
Lady fingers.
But yeah, I was very much a goody two-shoes little baby.
Lovely. We are very aligned in that way.
Yes, I think that's one of the reasons you and I get along so well.
Later, Lynette drinks the tea with the intention of finally getting some sleep. However, there is a knock at the door, and approximately 400 million children charge the home for a scouts meeting Lynette forgot she was hosting. And I would like to clock the children collectively as the monster of the week.
Two things to say.
Yes.
Do you think that Lynette was inspired by Bongo in this scene? Because she's looking rough.
Get off this podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Jakub show.
We've had a good run.
We have.
I was howling at this.
It's very funny. Lynette is trying so hard to stay awake as she teaches a group of the kids how to tie a knot, which she cannot do herself. She is fighting for her life out here.
And there is something about when you're around a lot of children who have a lot of energy and you're just you're going to a happy place. You're meditating. You're trying just to have it together. She's wearing a very cute, I've written, scout fit.
Oh, eventually she runs upstairs to take some more of the ADHD medication. And honestly, this was the first time that I've not judged her for it.
I think it's interesting that she is now double dosing. She takes 2.
Ooh, I was not paying attention to that, but good to know.
We've definitely transitioned from, I think, reliance into addiction at this point, and this is a big indicator of that. There's a very common thing that addicts do of, I can quit whenever I want, or I will quit when. And what happens more often than not is, no, you can't. Next, we have the spawns of Satan are going young, wild, and free. Lynette is on the phone to Tom, essentially begging him to come home, but Tom has a work thing, doesn't he always? And she says, yeah, I know you're sorry. And she sounds so defeated. She's at her wit's end. And Lynette fully loses it. She shatters a bowl. She breaks the window. And when she is looking through the broken window, she sees a vision of ghost Mary Alice, who lovingly hands her a gun. Lynette takes the gun and shoots herself. End of episode. Just kidding, it was only a dream. It's one of the few times that I'm not mad at the reveal of it all just being a dream.
I'm never mad at the reveal of something always being a dream if it's obviously a dream while you're watching it.
Yes. I will say, though, when she broke the bowl,
You thought that was real.
I thought that was real. And I thought, this is borderline unforgivable here. And I'm going to have to go into a podcast on Sunday and defend Lynette. And how am I going to do that?
Classic Lynette apologist.
Classic. I think we've had, again, the chickens are coming to roost. Lynette has said before about Mary Alice, her life was our life. And it's an indicator that Lynette is very close to or adjacent to suicidal tendencies. Or suicidal ideation, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah. I like the little transition of when she, quote unquote, shoots herself, like with the bang of the trigger is kind of like we're essentially shot back into reality as she like jerks up. And the kids are still going. The kids are literally like just sitting there and banging pots together.
Yes, it's bleak. And again, I think it's important that in the lead up to this scene, we see that she has no additional support.
Yeah. Tom is truly not in this episode at all.
And he's barely there to begin with. Oh. Ugh. Another thing I wanted to flag is Lynette's youngest, who is called
Penny,
is still incredibly young. And I am wondering if there is some postpartum depression going on.
Ooh, quite possibly. It's not really touched on at all in across the show, I don't think.
Yes, and it could also be a factor in there, but it doesn't need to be. I really think anybody can get depressed at any point for all sorts of reasons and for what feels like sometimes no reason at all. But her circumstances in particular in this episode make it almost the only conclusion of what could happen to Lynette.
Yeah.
It feels inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
How much more can this person take type of thing?
Yeah, it's all been coming to a head for sure.
Yes. I have written, Mike is covered in dirt and grime and Jakub's probably crying with joy somewhere. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. So Susan lets herself into Mike's place where he invites her to a vineyard for the weekend for a wine tasting. They're very flirty. They're clearly comfortable with each other now. Susan isn't being all bumbly as usual. She let herself in. That's another sign that they have like a comfortable dynamic. Now, Mike has been working, clearly, and he is in a white tank top and he is all sweaty and oily. So there's that. We've got to make sure that on this podcast we convey the key info to our listeners.
Yes.
And that's all I have to say on the matter at this time.
I know you must have been drooling because you didn't even point out that Mike is learning and is taking them for wine tasting, drinks, and dancing and has not mentioned the cinema the entire time.
On my notes here, second of all.
Yes, Jakub, yes.
Second of all, wine tasting date, talk of dinner and dancing. Now this, Mike, I can get on board with. Although, ironically, it's probably around this point in a dating scenario where I would be down for a cinema date with someone.
I really love how cute they are in this scene, though. They have this innocence about them, even though they're talking about sleeping together. Susan points out that it's a really eventful day and they'll get back late, and Mike hints at a hotel room and Susan seems down and he reveals, I found some hotels online, let me get the printout.
It's so cute. And it's also made very clear through this exchange that they have not had sex yet.
Yes.
And that if they stay at a hotel, it will be when they have sex for the first time.
Yes, and Mike has a printout.
I know, that's so 2004.
So 2004. I wonder what stationery he used. And then, hey, Bongo.
Yeah. Our best friend and main character of the show, Bongo, enters the scene.
Susan goes to get Bongo a treat and finds the gun. And I don't know why I've written wet dollar bills in the cabinet. I was just trying to convey in my notes that they seemed a bit suspicious. I don't know how I would feel in this scenario because, again, I am being confronted with the fact that I don't know how common guns are in America.
Mike is on the phone to someone who needs to come by the next day and telling him he won't be home for the next few days or something. And Susan offers to let whoever it is in. So Mike tells the person he'll leave keys with his neighbor. Clearly, Susan just wants the opportunity to snoop. But also, it's 2004. And is it that sus to have cash? I know Susan ain't running around with Apple Pay. Like, I understand it's unusual to see so much cash, but if you have a good dynamic with someone and you don't have a reason to mistrust them, I am shocked at the extremity of her response. She is like questioning everything. And I mean, like, to be fair, we've established that Mike has premium Monzo so that he can get those free cinema tickets rather than contactless. But I don't care. Like, Susan's reaction here is like, what the hell? What is this? And I just don't get it.
I do think Susan is a victim here of previous episode mentality of assuming the worst in people. I think Susan is enjoying something for the first time since her divorce and she is waiting for the other shoe to drop. However, I do think she is justified in seeing this as a dropped shoe.
Okay, this is what I needed to hear.
The next scene, Susan is confiding in another adult. Nope, of course not. 12-year-old child.
It's Julie the Vampire Slayer.
I've missed her. A potentially dangerous thing to do, by the way, to confide in what you think is potentially criminal activity in your 12-year-old child. Once again, putting your custody agreement stuff a bit when Julie's dad is a lawyer.
Crazy.
Anyway, Julie is downplaying it because she is 12 and says that she should be freaking out instead about sleeping with Mike for the first time. I think that the assumption Julie is making is that Susan is so worried about sleeping with Mike for the first time that she's trying to find an excuse to sabotage herself, which I do think is a reasonable conclusion to come to because Susan has been sabotaging her relationship with Mike all season.
So true.
Then she gets a great line.
There's so many great lines in this scene.
So many. Julie says that she's going to have a husband of her own someday and she doesn't want Susan living with them. And I don't think it was a joke.
That's why she's been hustling so hard to set up Susan and Mike.
Yes. And Julie says that she's going off to her dad's for the weekend, but we know in fact it is her watcher who is outside to collect her to slay.
Yes. Julie also comments that Susan should be more worried about the fact that no one has seen her naked in years.
Oh, yes.
Except for her doctor, who's in retirement, which Susan says she's trying not to take personally. But also, I guess Mike has already seen her naked, but also I suppose Julie didn't watch episode 3 like us. So
yes, she was busy.
Also, another notable line which I really enjoyed was when Susan's freaking out and she's like, oh, I don't know anything about him. He could be a hitman for the mob for all I know. And then Julie says, well, then why are you going away with him for the weekend? Susan just says, I never get out of the house.
I do think it's relatable. Without giving away any personal information, I do think if you've dated a few people and it's not working out, sometimes you can see something that maybe looks like a little bit of a red flag, but you think, maybe this is just everybody.
Yeah. So yeah, Julie goes to her dad's place for the weekend. To her watcher for the weekend. So Susan will not have the backing of the Slayer for this mission. And I suspect as a result, it will not go well.
Slayer down, diva down.
Yeah. So the guy who stopped by Mike's place gets a signature from Susan. As soon as he leaves, Susan immediately starts taking out all of the money and also the gun in the kitchen cabinet. Dumb. Yeah, why you touch it? Why are you getting your fingerprints on there?
That's exactly what I said. Mm-hmm. We have watched How to Get Away with Murder and Annabelle Keaton would be furious with Susan right now.
But she starts laying it out, counting it. This next bit infuriates me so much.
This infuriated me too.
Susan sees the man coming back. He forgot to give her a receipt. So for some reason, Susan stuffs all of the cash into her top and awkwardly carries the gun upstairs, pretending not to be there anymore until he leaves, dumps the money and the gun in the bathroom sink. For what? The man doesn't know her business. It could have been her money. She didn't need to do any of this. This is clown behavior.
if there's one thing Susan Myra's going to do is make everything worse. It is weird that she could have just put all of it, I don't know, under the table, into a bag.
Back in the cabinet.
Back in the cabinet. Her counting the money isn't that odd to me because I wonder if she's trying to justify how much money there is. For example, if it's 200 grand that he has in cash, I would be incredibly suspicious of that. I do think, as someone who needs to know absolutely everything, more information the better.
I guess this is just where me and you differ because I am truly the least curious person you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
I see 200 in cash. Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's nice for you.
It's one of the reasons that I love you so much, genuinely, is you will mind your business.
I am an unbothered person like Gabby, much in the hospital scene,
You're
but more
Danielle.
empathetic.
You need to stop comparing yourself to Andrew. You're Danielle, baby. Whereas me, there has never been any business that I have not minded.
So as Susan goes to leave the upstairs bathroom that she has gone into, she
Sorry. I sound like I'm having an asthma attack.
she jumps down from the windowsill and the floor gives in, leaving Susan trapped as her torso remains in the bathroom and her legs dangle from the roof of the room downstairs.
We cut to a scene of Susan has been waiting there, we don't know for how long, and Bongo comes in to help. Susan says, if you came here to judge me, you can just leave. And Bongo immediately leaves.
And Susan yells, wait!
Bongo continues to hate Susan and wishes Edie were his mum instead.
Yeah. I love though that he's kind of gotten used to her. So he's like, I'm not going to bark at you anymore, but I still don't respect you.
You're not my real mom. He's rejecting his stepmom.
Oh my God.
So Susan gets a towel and her big plan is to try to get Bongo to pull the other end as if Bongo is strong enough to lift her up from the roof.
You know what though? I have a dog at home and when we play tug of war, that dog is strong. Like I am scared for my hand if the dog's mouth gets anywhere near it. So I could believe like a petite lady like Susan could get pulled out by that dog.
Instead, Bongo decides to drink out of the toilet.
Yes. And then later we get another scene of Bongo bringing Susan a dead bird.
Which I loved. I was picturing it like, I know that cats do this. I don't know if dogs do this. I don't know. I don't have a dog yet, mother. But cats, when they think that you're too stupid to hunt for yourself, will present you with dead animals as a way of being like, go on, keep yourself alive. And I think that's what Bongo is doing here.
Mike comes home and initially laughs at Susan's situation before seeing all of his cash and gun in the upstairs bathroom sink.
I liked her saying, I'm upstairs, sort of.
She has her moments.
Yeah.
So he immediately becomes furious and demands Susan leaves. And you know what? She doesn't even put up much of a fight because it's very clear he's not interested. Like the tone is like, okay, I'm in trouble.
He feels scary for the first time, I think. And he says, you went through my cabinets, get out of my house.
Yeah. And you know what? It's his reaction to Susan finding the money and stuff that's what makes him suspicious to me, not the money and stuff itself.
Yes. And I think at this point, don't tell me it was unreasonable of Susan to snoop because it's clear she had justified cause.
Oh, but she only knows that after the fact.
No. 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 This is the thing. If somebody is too handsome, they're hiding something. And that's how I know you're keeping secrets from me. Sorry, I'm not trying to rehash the past. I'm in such a silly, goofy mood today.
Just a silly goose.
Silly, goofy mood.
So Susan turns up to Mike's again. And this is a completely reversed mirror image of the scene from earlier, I think.
Yes.
Because first of all, Mike is back in his sleeveless white top, so we're all happy. But Susan doesn't let herself in this time. She knocks.
Yes.
There's no flirting this time. There's no date being planned. Mike really seems done. And Susan demands answers, wondering aloud if Mike is a drug dealer, calling his cash and gun weird, creepy secrets. She's so not winning me over here.
Oh, okay. Don't make me defend Susan.
Girl, well, you might have to because I will not be.
Mike has an attitude because Susan's realised that he's a rubbish spy, right? Edie is the only person who is good at their job on this lane, apparently. Kind of echoing what you were saying, there is a literal screen between them during this scene. This kind of metaphor of this barrier, this wall that he's put up between them. So she apologises, but he blows it off. And then says, in your mind is the date off. And Mike calls it a deal breaker. When Susan asks if he's a drug dealer and he gets offended, she does point out, and I think rightfully so, that she is going to jump to conclusions when he's not giving her answers. And Mike says, I'm a good guy, Susan, and you should know that. And from personal experience, no good man has ever self-referred to themselves as a good man. Never. I have never met someone who was like, I'm a good guy, who has not been the worst person I've ever encountered. Anyway, they are... I thought that was funny, but you didn't laugh. That's okay.
I just can't react in any way that might give Susan credit.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's fair.
Because Mike says like he doesn't owe her every detail of his life. And he's right. Like, you know, they're getting comfortable with each other, but they're still getting to know each other. And even if we as audience members know that Suspicious Mike is indeed suspicious, Susan isn't entitled to all the comings and goings of his life.
But I think if Mike feels that Susan isn't entitled to all of the answers, then Mike has to put up with the fact that he's not entitled to all of Susan's trust then.
That's fine. But then Susan took it too far by finding a way to get into his house and doing all the snooping and everything. And at that point, it's like, this is not mistrust. This is just like, come on. Come on.
I would have done it.
And you would not have ended up with Mike?
Because I wouldn't have been caught. And that's the J. It is sad though, because they're fighting and they're breaking up and they aren't even together yet. But I do like that Susan is like, well, you know what? I'm gone.
Yeah, she's not gone for long though.
Yeah, for like 30 seconds, she's gone. She knows her worth for 30 seconds. After that argument, Susan is approached by Lynette to take care of the kids. And Susan says no, that's not a good time, but Lynette demands it and drops the baby in Susan's arms. And we know that Lynette is desperate because she's trusting Susan.
Yeah, this, in the chronological order of scenes, Lynette has just had her hallucination, I think.
Yes, I think she's chosen Susan because Susan is the first person that she has seen. Mm-hmm. And she no longer, this broke my heart a little bit. I think she no longer feels that her children are safe with her.
It's so sad, and we're going to get into that, but it was quite an emotional roller coaster with this whole Lynette conclusion.
Yes. I haven't, upon this rewatch, cried yet. And I am a crier. But this next scene, I was in bits.
It was so hard to watch.
Lynette is in the park with the bottle of meds, and Susan has got Bree in the car with her. Bree's in another stunning hat, but I realise that's not significant right now. Susan admits that she's scared, and this to me feels like the second chance for the girls, as in almost the intervention that Mary Alice needed, or the support that Mary Alice needed, just to kind of revisit that parallel. And Lynette seems fully catatonic. And I think it's very important that the two women that approached Lynette are the mothers of the group.
Yeah.
So Lynette confesses to Bree and Susan about the pills. And she says, I love my kids so much. I'm so sorry they have me as a mother.
Oh.
And I'm nearly gone again.
Oh, if you need me to jump in, just say.
That hurt my feelings.
Oh.
I think that when Bree tells her, specifically Bree, who she has repeatedly compared herself to, that she is a great mother. And Susan says, so you got addicted to your kid's ADD medication. It happens. I love that energy.
Yeah, the two girls could not be any more supportive towards Lynette in this moment.
It's really beautiful. And Lynette says, other mums don't need help. Other mums make it look so easy. All I do is complain. And I do think that this speaks to the viewers at the time who perhaps were seeing Lynette as annoying. It's a really, really beautiful scene and really beautifully done when Susan jumps in with how hard she had it with Julie. And even Bree says that she would use the kids' nap time to cry. And that moment breaks Lynette because she realizes that she is not an isolated incident. She is not bad at this. That the problem isn't that she is not a good enough mother. The problem is that women don't tell each other how much they're struggling with motherhood. It's phenomenal. It was probably ahead of its time. I wish I had more context for that. But
Yeah.
even though these discussions are happening more and more on television, I do feel like I personally hadn't seen anything like this until that moment. She just says, "Why didn't you ever tell me this? We should tell each other this stuff." And it's so simple and so real. And it broke me.
It's incredible, and it ends with them all hugging and crying together. It is just, you just know in this moment, Lynette's going to be okay.
Yes, this is a turning point for her because, yes, the reason Lynette is continuously beating herself up is because she thinks that her children don't deserve her as a mum and that all the other mums are perfect and getting everything right. And now she's just had evidence that that's not true for the first time.
And she's also felt so alone with her kids. And now it feels like these two friends, at least, are there for support in motherhood.
And also she's been validated by Tom, which I do think was lovely and necessary, but it's completely different to be validated by other mothers.
Yes. Yes.
Oh. And that is why I am a Lynette apologist.
It happens.
It happens. She's only done it for a couple of episodes. It's probably still the same week as the last one.
So you might be a Lynette apologist. I am not a Susan apologist, though. And now we continue on with Susan. So she's having some wine at home at night. And when she goes to the kitchen to pour some more, she sees Mike looking at her through the window. Mike goes back to his couch. He's looking at his picture of Susan from his collection of evidence, maps, etc. They both clearly have a lot of their mind, given everything that happened in this episode. And then eventually Mike knocks on Susan's door and says, like, "I know you have questions and I know that I don't want to lose you. So ask me anything you want to know."
And this is where I turn on Susan.
Thank you. So she tells him, "You just told me everything I need to know." And she throws herself at him because I guess all of her curiosities were just some passing thought that don't matter.
But again, she is so emotionally needy that when he says he doesn't want to lose her, that is enough. And that drives me bananas.
Yeah.
You've just told me everything I need to know. You literally have done the opposite. You've told me nothing that I need to know.
She made such a big deal out of these weird secrets just to be like, do I care? No. Anyway, Julie is at her dad's, so they definitely do it right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They seize that opportunity.
Gotta take advantage of having an empty when your mother's away.
An empty. Do people know what? Does everyone gonna know what that is? Is that Edinburgh specific?
You can work it out from context.
Yeah. What is wild to me about Susan here is that she has seen evidence now that Mike is a suspicious person and is potentially committing crimes, potentially doing things that are seedy. And despite having a 12-year-old, is willing to ignore any answers, knowing that her child could potentially be, her child's safety could be in jeopardy here. Then
We're really coming to a climax here.
I know. Okay.
Much like Susan and Mike are about to.
Let's go back to see what Martha and Paul are up to. Martha confesses that when her husband died, he left her with a worthless pension. She was, quote, desperate
Drink.
for money, and that it was better for her to take it from a bad person than a good person. She even says, How was I supposed to know she'd shoot herself? Let's cycle back. In episode 1, when Mary Alice decided to end her own life and Martha was witness to Mary Alice's body, she called 911 and then immediately took the sticker off of the blender that was Mary Alice's and smiled.
Mm-hmm.
This choice had consequences.
Consequences, which I did not remember when we recapped episode 1.
This is such a good payoff. So I'll get to it. She is being very hypocritical. Paul is defending Mary Alice, and Martha says a good person who left her child motherless. Read the Bible, Paul. Suicide's a big no-no. And it's at this moment that I feel Martha's not funny anymore.
Yeah, it's like, I know we've had the running Julie the Vampire Slayer joke about her being the big bad, but at this point, this is absolutely genuine big bad energy.
This is evil.
Yeah, she has very much taken her mask off, and it's like she's in literally in her lair, in her home. She's like, I'm not putting up any facade here. This is who I am.
Yes, and she's exposing the fact that she's justified her behavior by believing that Mary Alice deserved to die. Mary Alice wasn't a great person, implying that she is, and again, going back to that kind of hypocrite line that she has about taking in Edie as a good Christian, and then to use Mary Alice's suicide as a kind of religious bargaining chip. It's horrible. It's deplorable. And it feels like such a mirror of Andrew's behavior from earlier in the episode. To me, it's almost like this is who Andrew could end up as, because she too feels absolutely no remorse for being responsible for this death.
Not even a little bit.
Just because she is not the person that pulled the trigger, and just because Andrew is not the person that at this point it seems like Juanita isn't going to die. And she says, goosebumps again. Martha says she killed herself because of what she did to that poor baby.
Mm-hmm. Presumably this is in reference to Dana, yet to be revealed any more information about that.
And presumably linked to the box of human remains.
Yes.
Paul, rightfully, don't come at me. If you try and fight me in the comments, I'm going to block you. I went really Scottish there because I felt very defensive. Paul takes the blender and whaps Martha in the head.
Mm-hmm. You were right. That blender, main character.
Main character. The absolute poetry of that being her undoing. And again, the beautiful fatal flaw of Martha being her lack of compassion, and the lack of compassion being the instrument of which she is killed with.
Unbelievable.
After she's hit in the head with the blender, it's interspersed with Susan and Mike sleeping together for the first time. And the intimacy and passion of that is such an interesting contrast, because this here between Paul and Martha, I know this is a weird word to use in this context, but it is passion. It's not sexual, it's violent passion.
Yeah, crimes of passion.
Crime of passion. And the idea of being physically close with another person in the most loving way, potentially, versus the most violent way. And Susan's gentle neck kisses being put aside, Martha being choked slowly to death, as Paul eventually wraps Martha's dead body in a rug. Death count 5.
Death count 5. R.I.P. or Big Bad. We're gonna need a new running joke, and I'm so sad.
It is so interesting. Again, far-fetched, probably. My slogan. The moment of Paul reaching for the home video of Mary Alice and going to choke it being linked to this moment.
Why am I just so unobservant? You made that comment earlier, and I did not put two and two together.
You are not unobservant. You have some amazing analysis.
Thank you.
How do you
I just feel like some things go so over my head. You're practically spelling it out. Like, and I'm just like,
I also feel like we could jump cut to some writers from the episode being like, that's a coincidence.
That's true. Hey, if you're a writer on the show, come be on the pod. Drop us a DM.
Also, if you're a writer on Julie the Vampire Slayer, please hit us up.
Please.
I also find it interesting that Paul has, at this point, we've never seen violence from him. And we've also never seen Paul really lose it. We have seen Zach being so angry that Zach's lost it. And I do wonder, with Zach being dressed as Paul and a mini Paul in some ways, that this was almost the writers letting us know this was coming.
And here it is.
It's so good. And I will defend this decision. I really will.
Hey, I'll defend TV murders.
Yes.
I love a good TV murder.
The final scene, we have the Mary Alice voiceover with Bree reading the Bible, watching Andrew, Carlos washing his mother. Gabby eventually does get involved with giving Juanita a sponge bath, and Carlos kisses her on the head. And once again, my feelings are hurt because Carlos is clearly kissing her on the head because he feels that this is real love that she is showing for his mother and trusts her in this moment with something so precious.
And it's all these shots we're getting as Mary Alice talks about guilt. So this shot of Gabby is paired with not all sinners feel guilty.
Yes.
And then it's contrasted with while others assume more of their share of the blame, which is in reference to Bree and Andrew.
Yes. And then we cut to Paul cleaning the bloodstain of Martha, which again to me feels like a parallel of Zach wiping the bloodstain of Mary Alice a few episodes ago. Finally, Lynette sleeps, and this time dreams of this idyllic motherhood fantasy. And when she sees Mary Alice again, they are watching. Mary Alice looks a lot more at peace, as does Lynette.
Yeah, and with this moment, the Mary Alice voiceover says that there are those who vow to do better next time and pray for forgiveness. And actually, I think this is the moment that I got the most emotional in rather than the previous scene. I think I actually will get more outwardly emotional at scenes which are really happy rather than really sad.
Yeah.
This definitely got me teary-eyed. And like when I write notes for these episodes, and like I'm usually, pausing and playing constantly. This time I was on a plane, so there's a lot of distractions and it's hard to immerse myself in the feeling of any given scene.
Yeah.
But even with that, I was on the plane. Girl, I had watery eyes.
You were sat next to the KLM flight attendant.
Yeah, we were just holding each other.
Hands.
It was so lovely.
It's so lovely. Something which might not be a thing. I know that the actor who plays Tom was probably just not contracted for this scene. But Lynette's motherhood fantasy does not involve Tom.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting.
Very interesting. I just love how at peace she looked when she was fast asleep there. It was so nice.
Mary Alice looking so at peace after Paul has just murdered Martha. And I am joking about it a little bit, but I do wonder what her perspective would have been on it.
Who was your worst neighbor?
It's Martha Hooper. There's no remorse. There is only evil.
That's fair.
Who's your worst neighbor? Are you going to say Susan?
So I know that Paul is a literal murderer and murders his neighbor in this episode.
Yes.
But I don't care. I'm giving it to Susan.
Well, to be fair, Martha had it coming.
Like, here's the thing, right? If my neighbor murders me, I'm dead. So I'm not going to be annoyed. I'm dead. If my neighbor finds a way to weasel their way into my home to snoop and blow out of proportion all these things and accuse me of all these things, that's annoying. I don't want you as a neighbor. Now, having been inspired by last week's episode.
Do you have a present for me?
And also, just as a kind of a send-off to our beloved Martha, I tried to come up with some Housewives taglines for Martha to see her off.
It's like Christmas.
Just for fun for me, really.
Yeah.
So I have 4. You can tell me which one you like the best.
Okay.
So we have, Underneath this Battenberg blouse is a heart full of secrets and a master plan.
Oh, we've started quite strong here,
Okay.
Jakub.
The next one is, you can bury your secrets, but I'll be the one planting flowers on top.
I really like that.
Ooh.
I really like that.
Okay, next one is, I don't haunt people. I just live in their heads rent-free. And then the last one is, if you want to keep a secret, you better bury it deeper than me.
Oh. That's so good. I'm trying to think of any off the top of my head. Blender, I don't even know her.
That's it. Lock it in. I am so serious when I say, if anyone has any taglines for any characters,
Please.
let us know. DM us on Instagram. Comment on literally any of our posts or episodes. I will read them on the show.
That last episode in this one, we're very, very strong.
Oh yeah, they were meaty episodes. Mince meat.
Meaty. I wonder, side conspiracy, I wonder if Bongo was in fact some sort of magical familiar sent to monitor Martha Hooper. And that is why, after she dies, we do not see Bongo ever again. It's good, isn't it? It's good.
Just, I love this headcanon universe.
Yeah, I love our DHCU. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, guys. This has been a particularly fun one.
Yes.
We love you very much, and always, crucially, stay desperate.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to check out our Instagram for visuals, behind the scenes content, and more.
You can find us by searching for Modded, that's MEWDYD.
Or just search for Mary Alice, What Did You Do?
This podcast is brought to you entirely by us, Erin McGee.
And Jakub Tanzi. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to leave us a review. It really helps us out.
Join us next time for another episode of Mary Alice,
What Did You Do?